Okay, hello, good morning. I guess it's time to do some more coding. Yeah, what I wanted to talk about briefly first is that we created this effect of ours. We were talking about, let's see, adding a backlog item. So like the reference code just had like a method called update item, and it wasn't really clear that it was actually handling both adding and editing an item, which could be confusing for like the next developer, which I really was, and I was confused. So then I brought up the subject of, okay, should you actually separate adding something and editing something? The problem, like conceptually, that makes a lot of sense because they are two different things. But in terms of code, they are so similar that it starts like giving the wrong balance if you kind of split everything up. So I got a comment. I do not remember the name, but there is this other concept called like upsert, which is like update or insert if you don't have an ID, which is which I don't remember where I've seen that, but yeah, it's definitely like a type of pattern, and that absolutely works because it's very explicit that it's not strictly an update or strictly an insert. It's like either one based on the ID. The challenge, though, for the next developer is that the next developer has to know about the upsert concept, or the developer would like look at the method name and see upsert. What the hell is that? But we could be explicit. We could say like add or update backlog item. That would be even more explicit. So maybe we can do that when we start implementing editing and explore that a little bit more. So that was one thing. What was the other thing? Thinking. I can't remember now. Let's see. What was it? Oh, YouTube. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, of course. The other thing was when we look at our action here. Was it here we did it? Or no, sorry, it was here. So when we get a backlog item, we know that we have a profile because this action would never trigger unless we have a profile. But our state profile is typed as profile or null, meaning that we have to check that we actually have it. But with TypeScript, you can do this other thing. You can do this, which basically tells TypeScript, hey, I know it's actually here. And we do this a lot in Code Sandbox. But it feels dirty. It feels like you haven't typed your state correctly, or the code doesn't understand the context it's running in, or the typing doesn't understand the context it's running in, which is true. And the point is, with TypeScript, I get very at unease when I have to tell TypeScript is wrong about the context or doesn't understand the context, and I have to help TypeScript understand it. But then TypeScript is working against me, and I want TypeScript to only help me. So I'm kind of made that like a thing for myself, is that when I design APIs related to typing, I really, really want TypeScript to only help me. But yeah, but we can leave this for now, and then we'll revisit this profile later and see how maybe we could use like a state machine to more properly get the action into the correct state, like typing state. Anyways, what I thought we'd do today is just play around with some UI. What I intend to do is that the main screen of the app will be like 100 width, like view height and view, well, not view width, there's a maximum width there because we're going on mobile. And then we'll like center the whole content. But when we are on the lists, then I want to use the full body scroll. And this is because in my experience with mobile apps, if you start doing like overflow scrolling, you start getting into tricky behavior. Like it doesn't, like mobile browsers seems to be optimized for static sites. Like I think I read this article on Safari related to like fixed position and stuff like that. And when they like designed or implemented the browser, they were looking at like 99% of the web, and 99% of the web is static websites. It's not web applications. So they optimized for that, which I totally can understand. But then you get into these like really tricky things you want to do. And in my experience is that you, with the CSS and the layout, you kind of want to think a static website and then kind of introduce the app on top of that to get more consistent scrolling behavior and stuff like that. Anyways, I'm no expert in this at all. And it's like a science in itself, doing CSS and layouts and responsive and all that stuff. But enough talking. What I thought we'd do first, let's see, I don't remember stitches. I want to introduce some tokens, but I don't remember how I did that. Let's see. So we have configure. Yeah, so I think I can just start introducing some tokens here. And also, well, we don't really have any screens because everything is going to be mobile. But maybe we can expose some utilities as we move on. Okay, but we have this space token. That's a good start. So let's see. Tokens, space, and I really just want like space 0. Then like, well, I guess 25 rems, 5 rems, 1 rem. Doesn't it like this? Oh, have I said, does these need to be, oh, that's wrong, this typing. I need to fix that because that should be a number as well. Oh, sorry, it's not the key, it's the value, sorry. Yeah, maybe we should allow numbers there because that was pretty confusing. Let me note that. Yeah, this one's fixed. Okay, stitches, support number as value. Okay, cool. So we have some tokens here. So that means when we start doing some stuff here, let's see. Where are we going to do this? I guess we'll look at the component. So this is our app, and we should have like a auth component, and then we need our like main menu or home, maybe we can call it home. And then we're also going to do like, this is going to take the whole session just playing around with these components. And we need, so what we want to do is to add a backlog item. So maybe call it add backlog item. Cool. So let's, I'll just copy this stuff. Let's see. So our app should no longer do this stuff. Let's see. It should handle authenticating. Yes. So it should handle authenticating. And I think we'll actually make that. Let's see. Okay. So if state equals authenticating, we want like a spinner or something. Maybe we can copy. Okay, I'm not going to go into that now, but it's nice to have like a nice spinner. But let's call it loading for now. And then this one, we really want this one to be used container thing, because we want that to be in the center when we are actually loading. Take up the whole screen and stay in the center. And also I think we want, or is this already here? No. So we want some like body styles here, and that's basically just removing the margin. Body margin 0. Yes, and then if we are unauthenticated, we want to return our auth component. We'll implement that. And then if we are authenticated, we want to return the home component. So let's move this stuff into and I'm wondering if we should just say maybe we should do this. Class name. This should be the container. Blah blah blah. Oops. So we'll have the container on both the loading and the auth, so it's centered. And then we have home. Yeah, how are we going to switch between the pages here? Oh, let's just duplicate some stuff for now, and we'll see how we'll do this. Okay, so this is what we have now, and then we'll do this, and then we're going to put this into, oh, sorry, this is the, I was playing around with auth now. Let's see. No, sorry, what am I doing? Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm messing around with this. Let's see. So this is the auth. And this is the thing, like now I have to still check the state. If I'm unauthenticated, that's when I want to return this. Or else I would have to return null actually. By the way, why is it complaining about this? Oh, that's interesting. That's actually true. Cool. So we still have our container here. So maybe we can start splitting up our CSS a little bit. So what we can do is we can rather expose some generic styling here. So maybe like what should we call this? Screen container. That's a nice name. That's a super nice name. And we'll just copy this over. So we have this screen container. Well, it's actually a screen center container, but let's name it screen container. It's implicit that it's centering. Cool. And then we can drop this one, and we are going to import screen container instead. We don't have any actions here anymore. We want to export. Yeah, and then there's this, like what I typically do is I export const auth react.fc like this instead. And the thing is, like, export default with there's kind of always a debate about stuff, but exporting components using I'm on this podcast, it's a Norwegian one, and we discussed this, like importing like this or importing with like a default, and I do not quite remember the arguments at the top of my head. Yeah, what were the arguments? Yeah, I'm not like a pro tester on exporting default, but I prefer to export like this because you might export multiple things. And also it's just, yeah, and it's also the naming, because if you export the, yeah, I think that was the main reason, because when you export like default like this, then you don't have a name. But if you export a constant, then you do have a name, I believe. Yeah, I don't remember. Anyways, that's good for now. And then in our app, we want to, yeah, and I believe like typically you will actually, if you have something like this, currently TypeScript hasn't picked up me exporting this auth component, but it would do that. So when I would go here and get some help, it would actually find the auth. But if you were to, yeah, this is the main reason. But if you were to export default, it wouldn't be able to find like what is auth. It could be anything. So you wouldn't know what to import. We are grabbing auth from auth. And then, yeah, let's just go ahead and grab home as well. And then this is also going to be, oops, our screen container. Cool. Yes. And again, here we see that related to typing, we already know that auth can only run when you're actually unauthenticated. But yeah, by the way, we can do this auth. And we'll do but since like we're kind of decoupled from this, we still have to be explicit about being in an unauthenticated state. Like currently we're not pointing to any other state here, but if we were, like it states here that the user is null, for example, stuff like that. Cool. Yes, home. Home. Yeah, and then there's also the typing of a component. I typically do this, React FC. Like you don't have to do this. You can just do this because a component it's just a function and like it infers that. But doing this, you basically say that this is actually a component. So for example, when we look here, we do have the children there, for example. And it opens up for adding some props here. And I know that instead of adding the typing here, you can do it here instead. So you could say like foo string, and this would actually work when you consume the component as well, because it's like inferred when the component is consumed. And a lot of developers actually prefer this because not all components should have children. So by typing on this side, you're actually saying there shouldn't be any children here. So if you try to consume the component and giving it children, it would actually give you a type error, which is exactly what you want really. But if you were to type it here, you will always be able type-wise to pass children. You would have to like be explicit to say children, I don't know, undefined or something every time to be explicit about you cannot pass children to this component, which is interesting. And this is the stuff I'm talking about, like TypeScript. This is a functional thing. And when you do functional code, like typing in general, just, or at least the APIs we build with JavaScript without thinking about typing, they tend to have these quirks when you start introducing typing after the API is designed. And not saying that React could be designed any differently, but it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, yeah, it's not ideal. That's what I mean. Anyways, So what we're going to do here is basically just, let's use the, we're using the screen container on home as well, because we want everything to be centered. Hello world, I am home. Okay, but we don't really have any of that stuff yet. And we have our app. We're not using the action. Let's see, so it's loading. And now it moves to the hello world, I'm home. That's great. I guess you should have the possibility to log out as well, but we don't care about that now. What we do care about though is that we need a way to move into the adding of the backlog item. So maybe we could, I'm just copy pasting the hell out of this. Add backlog item. Cool. And this should not be the screen container. We want to actually use the full page here. I guess we do want, so screen container should not really be, let's close this one. As we talked about, we're going to have a maximum width here. So we are going to say, can we do this like CSS max width? And I guess what should be the maximum width there? I don't know, like 700 pixels or something? I have no idea. Let's do that. And then maybe we should kind of separate the UI a bit, so you kind of see, or maybe that's not important. Let's not think about that now. Cool, so we have a max width there. And then I think we are good for that. And as I said, we are not going to use like a screen container here. We're just going to use a plain container. Okay, so let's see. Now we're going to use one of the tokens. So we actually want some padding here. And that padding should be, as you can see, we already have like 0, 1, 2, 3 here. So we can say padding like 3, and that will become 1 rem. We should probably have some more here, like 4 is 1.5 rems, 5 is 2 rems. So let's use 5 here instead. Cool. I guess that's good enough for now. And I guess we also need a box size, what's it called? Box sizing, border box, so that the padding is included in the height we have here. And the width, for that sake. Cool. So we're not noticing anything here now, of course, but what we need is just a normal container. We could have called it fixed container as well. Yeah, anyways. So we will also have a normal container. And it's not display flex. It doesn't have a specific height. It does have a specific width. And it should have the same padding. And it should have this stuff. So maybe we can, let's see. So we can say like const default container. This is kind of the interesting thing about stitches. So then we can do this, and then we can just say default container. And this should be default. Oh, maybe this actually becomes the container. Okay, cool. So we have a container, and then the screen container just adds some constraints to that container. That's nice. Yes, so add backlog, that should just be the container. Let us add a backlog item. Cool. Yeah. We need something more here. as you can see, it's a little bit off here. So we also need to center this thing. So when we have like a screen container, we have to say margin left is auto, and the same goes for margin right. I think this is the right thing to do. Yeah, now it's center again. Awesome. Cool. So what we want to do is move from this page to the other page. And that's where we kind of need to introduce some state on this. So how are we going to do that? So I guess this is like a good time to introduce yet another state machine. Like our root state should really be a state machine, because either we are like on the home page, or we're adding an item, or we are planning the next week, or we're editing the current week and stuff like that. So maybe we can rather talk about that. So we've done some UI work now, so now we're going to move back into the state and think about how we're going to do this. So maybe we can just try to plan it out a little bit first. So if we're going to like wrap this in a state machine, like the initial state would be that we are on like the home page, and then we could be on add backlog item, and then we could be on plan next week, or we could be on edit current week. Those are like the states, and they basically represent different components. Now what I wonder is, we also have this auth state. So I'm wondering if should that auth state really be at the root, or should we maybe create a namespace for these different things? Because we could argue that these states that we have defined here, authenticating, authenticated, unauthenticated, those are also main screen states, because you can't like be none of these states, including the ones we just defined, home and adding backlog item and stuff, they can't be at the same time. So maybe we should try to refactor that. So instead of having auth as like a namespace, we'll move this state machine up to the root, and then we're just going to add more states here. Because I said you can only be in one of them at any time anyways. And that should also improve our typing of the, like I'm not obsessing a bit about the typing, but for me, that if we can get the typing to understand the context we're in, I think that supports like a good design. So I don't know if we have time for this, but let's try it. Let's try to refactor this. Okay, so we're going to create a state machine up here instead. Let's move this. Okay, so we have our state, and that means that we can actually do this as well. Now we can say profile is null here. The backlog, and we can also say that we only have the backlog when we are, let's see. So we really don't have an authenticated state, I guess. Yeah, wait. This is interesting. So we are authenticated, but we want to move to the home screen, which means that, yeah, we could rather make authenticated state. And you probably feel like I'm thinking about this way too much, overcomplicating things. And yeah, I'm definitely doing that. I could drop all this, not think about typing, not think about the state machines and all that stuff, and just implement the thing. And just have a bunch of is authenticating states and all this, and it would work just fine. Maybe we would have like some tiny bugs, but we would find them and we would just fix them. But I'm kind of doing this to push my thinking as well. Like, how can I think differently, or like improve the way I build apps? So this is as much exploring new concepts as actually implementing the app. It's just a nicely sized project to do it, to do that kind of exploration. I wouldn't do this at Code Sandbox, for example. There I kind of use the go-to things that I know works. Like, nothing is perfect, but it makes me like an effective developer. But these kinds of projects allows me to explore new ways of thinking about state management and organizing state and stuff. Yeah, so what I was thinking here is that when we are authenticating, we have, let's see, user comes from Firebase. We have this authenticated state. So we could say that when you are authenticated, you don't move like to an authenticated state. For that would kind of mean that you would have a screen that's like you're authenticated, but we actually want to move to the home screen. And that home screen has authenticated state in it. So it means that we have a user, blah, blah, blah. And then maybe we could say move unauthenticated up here, like this. And then we have yet another screen. I don't remember what we called it. It was, oh, did I remove my backlog thing? Oh yeah, backlog is backlog items. Yeah. So when we are authenticated, we also have like our backlog. It might be empty, but we do have it. And then we have, oh, what did I call? Here it is. Add backlog item. And this also has the authenticated state. It might have some of its own state, but at least it has everything related to authenticated. And then we have plan next week. We're going a bit over time here, but I actually have some extra time today. Edit current week. Okay, so let's try this now. Blah, blah, blah. So we are going to create a state machine of these states. We're doing some hardcore refactoring here now. Let's see, let's bring in these ones. And then, let's see, that should be the first argument. Okay, state machine, let's bring that in from Overmind. Okay, so when we are authenticating, we can move to, yeah, so it depends, like, do we want to remember the page you were on? Currently, I don't care about that. And then authenticating, oh yeah, of course. So when we are on the home state, we can move to unauthenticated, that's perfectly fine. When you are on the home state, we can move to we can basically move to everything. We can move to add backlog item, we can move to plan next week, and we can move to edit current week. But when we are on add backlog item, we can really only move to, well, for some reason you might be unauthenticated. And we can only move back to home actually. This is interesting. This is a nice way to describe how the app works. So when we plan the next week, it's the same. And when we edit current week, it's the same. Cool. And then our initial state will be authenticating, which means that authenticating, we do not really have any state here, which is okay, because we'll populate this state as we move through the app. Okay, and now we need to move our actions outside, so we'll have it inside here instead. I think we're going to do just fine with a single actions file on this app. Cool. And then let's see, that was our actions, and then we have our state, and okay, so we can delete the auth now. And we do not need any of this. We can just insert our config because it's on the root. And let's see, we have all of our state stuff here. Let's see, authenticating, cool, our actions. Yeah, so again, now it doesn't know what state we are in. So we can say if our state is, yeah, so this is also interesting because now we do not really care about what state we are in. Oh my God. Yeah, I think we have to do the same thing here. So we know that we have the backlog here. Shouldn't that doesn't exist? Didn't we have a backlog there? Authenticated state. Oh, doesn't it understand? Does not exist. Yeah, it doesn't exist there, but it exists on the other ones. Why are you complaining about this? This is interesting. But if I were to say if the state is home, for example, would you be happy then? Yeah, then you will be happy. Okay, because some of them don't have, so we do have to be explicit, but we don't really care about this specific, like when should we allow adding the backlog items? It's really in all states except authenticating and unauthenticated. So how would we express that? That's interesting. We could do something like, I wonder if this actually works. Probably not. Let's see. Includes state. Yeah, exactly. That doesn't work. Would we really have to do something like this? That's kind of annoying. Yeah, this is interesting. Okay, but we'll do this for now, like, because it's actually correct. Like, we only want to allow adding these things when we are in these specific states. That is like the correct behavior. So if for some reason there was some async issue and we were to move being unauthenticated, we would not want that item to be added because we don't want those items to be there when you're unauthenticated. So there's probably so I think this is kind of like the missing part of the state machine API, is that you would really just want to express, for example, let's say state, and then maybe we had off, and then you could pass like home, add backlog item, blah blah blah. Oh, sorry. So current. So you could say something like this: state of home, blah blah blah, and then this will be typed to this, and this would be nice in components as well. So you would kind of grab the state, and you could say like, for example, what was it called? Use app state. You would call that, and you can say off home, for example. And again, this is like, it doesn't make any sense to have that off thing for a JavaScript developer, but it's basically a utility function for TypeScript to get the correct typing. And yeah, we're already doing this for state machines, so I think it actually does make sense. Yeah, maybe I'll actually explore this and push something so we can look at it tomorrow. But the point is that what we want to express is that when this action runs, it should only run its logic when we are in these states. That's what we want to express, and currently it's a little bit verbose. That's the only thing. But let's finish this up before we stop, and then I'll explore this off thing for tomorrow, and we can try it out and see how it feels. So I guess this these stream sessions are kind of diving into API designs as well, which is perfectly okay. Okay, so let's just be consistent here. So we'll say if state, yeah, so it's the same here on backlog update. Yeah, so this is interesting because we really only want if the state equals add backlog item. That is the only time we actually want to be able to do this. We don't want to allow doing this in any other state. And then on auth changed, blah blah blah, async user. Yeah, we'll have to remove. We're going to home here. Yeah, we have to say current. Yeah, we get current here as well, I believe. Cool. And then unauthenticated, authenticating. Okay, I think we're good there. Let's save this as well. Blah blah blah. And then we have our onInitialize, which points to the wrong thingy. And we probably also have some components that's pointing to the wrong thingy. This is yeah, are you not happy? Oh, I wonder why it's complaining there. Oh yeah, it was the error that came from the preview. Oh yes. So what we have to do now is when we move into home, we actually want to set our backlog to an actual value. So this is our initial value. And then whenever we get out of home, oh yeah, then we reset our backlog. That's not good. That's not good. So we have to remove that. Yeah, we'll have to think about that. Okay, so we're back to normal again. I did a lot of changes here. And again, I'm just, as I said, I'm trying to explore other ways of expressing state and writing better code. And better code doesn't necessarily mean instantly, like intuition wise, what you would expect, because we haven't solved state management at all, especially in terms of organizing it, securing it, like guarding it and stuff like that. And it's really, really interesting to go in and try different approaches to see how we can improve it. Yeah. So we could even do like if state of, yeah, maybe this would make more sense. So we would like if state, yeah, you also have these matches. Yeah, maybe that's better. This is also from XState. You have like state matches, because you do not only want to type it, you also want to guard it. So if we did this other thing, off thingy, you would actually still be able to run the logic, even though it was typed. Well, if we have state.matches, it allows us to add multiple states. And then you kind of get the correct typing here, as well as we actually check if you are in one of those states. So yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. I'll add that matches API. And then we'll see how that works. Cool. I guess that's it. We did a little bit of UI stuff. We explored some API and thinking state machines and our application in different states and stuff. And then we're just going to continue working on that the next time. We're going to add a button to actually transition into adding a backlog item. Maybe we'll even get some UI there to actually add the backlog item. And then we'll look at the new matches API I'm going to build and see how that feels like. And yes. I think that's all good. Yeah, and also now that we have home here, we're moving into home and we have an exit on home. That's really not what we want, because we want to dispose the backlog when we actually go into an unauthenticated state, which is interesting. So we'll have to figure that one out as well. Cool. That's it for now. A bit over time this time, but I'll hopefully see you tomorrow, and we'll explore it some more. Okay, bye bye.